Thanks very much for joining us today. Samak clearly in his address talking tough, but how likely that is going to sway anybody?
Yeah, Paul, my point is that the protests are one thing, but that's not what's going to take down this government. Ultimately, there's a court case that's against this government that is potentially going to dissolve the government. I think there's a high probability of that. And that's really the issue that Samak's got to deal with. He's held on very well in this whole situation as far as not bowing to pressure. I've never seen a prime minister be as confident as he is, but ultimately it's this court case that's coming up against him.
If he is forced out, whether it be that court case or simply the protest, what implications does that have for Thailand? Because he was, of course, democratically elected.
Well, I mean, as you recall, we had the coup in 2006, and the objective of the coup, it seems, was to get rid of the power structure of Thaksin Shinawatra. And so the point is that the coup leaders probably don't feel like they've fully completed the job. And so I think that's probably where they're coming from, is that now they're going to fully complete the job. One of the members of, an executive member of the PPP party, the ruling party, got caught and had a court case against him by the Supreme Court saying that he was found vote buying. And under the new constitution that was drafted and approved last year, that means the party's got to be dissolved. So it's pretty cut and dry. They feel like they've got a case against him. It's going to get these guys out, and then we'll have another election by the end of the year.
Well, Credit Suisse yesterday said the nation will become ungovernable. Would you go that far?
No, I don't think so. In fact, the point is that all that they've been trying to do over the last couple of years, the power struggle is actually coming to an end, though it just seems like it's awful right now. And the end will come through the courts, which have a relative level of legitimacy. It's following the Constitution, and it's not an unreasonable thing. So from my perspective, actually, we may be closer to a resolution than what people realize.
Does it matter that the foreign minister quits? The prime minister not overly complimentary about him as he went, of course, but does it matter that Tej Banag is an advisor to the king?
No, it doesn't matter, and the reason why is because he came in at kind of a last minute to try to help with a border dispute with Cambodia. He did his part on that. He wasn't related to the People's Power Party, and he was kind of brought in to help on that. And I think Samak's comments is that he wasn't a politician, and that's probably pretty reasonable. So it's not a big blow for these guys.
As far as investment goes then, stocks since the occupation of government offices down about 3%. That's fractionally worse than the rest of Asia, but barely. What's the outlook for the stock market and general investment in this environment?
Well, I mean, Paul, that to me is one of the indicators of why I think we're at the bottom for the stock market. All of the turmoil that's gone on over the last few weeks, and the market hasn't fallen much more than the rest of the region. So my point is simply that we're probably at close to the bottom now on the overall Thai stock market. That's the good news. The bad news is that I think a lot of foreign investors, nobody's willing to get confident and excited about the story here, and I don't have a story of an earnings turnaround and a reversal right now. So unfortunately, we don't get a lot of market muscle coming back.
So if there are those few brave speculators out there who are willing to take the plunge or do see some sense in the market, where should they be putting their money? A broad basket, or are there particular sectors that are good?
Well, in Thailand, it's kind of unique. We have 40% of the market is energy companies, and then another 25% is financials. No other sectors really matter that much. With energy companies, with oil prices coming down, you probably don't want to be in there, and therefore that really leaves liquid financial companies, the banks, which have had very good growth, high margins, good profits, and I think are reasonably cheap.
A lot of reasonably wealthy, but you don't have to be exceptionally wealthy, people have been buying property in Thailand, of course. Is that a wise strategy in this kind of environment?
Yeah, property was just, recently had been hit pretty badly, and these property companies are not that big and liquid, and we've got one big problem, and that is that when the risk appetite is so low and nobody wants to play in Thailand, what ends up happening is that the smaller companies just don't get pumped. So there is a little bit of a risk in being in some of them, but I think the property companies have a good comeback coming.
And much currency risk. The baht's weakened about 0.5% since the occupation. So again, a sign that perhaps it's near the bottom, but it is still the second worst performer after the Korean won this year. It's down about 13%.
Yeah, I mean, the Bank of Thailand's kept the interest rates relatively low because remember that at the end of last year, we had the slowest domestic economy in all of Asia and the absolute slowest level of money supply growth in all of Asia. So they were worried about an absolute collapse. Now you've got a situation where, remember that Thailand has no oil subsidies, so our inflation numbers are starting to come down and probably will come down quickly, which is taking some pressure off the Bank of Thailand. So I would say we've had some money coming out, which has caused the baht to weaken, but I don't think that there's a major crisis there.
Andrew, thank you for that. Andrew Stotz, Head of